Well, the weather's changed over and over the last several days here in Denver, but it's quite nice. 53 degrees, partly sunny with the winds out of the southwest. Bill O'Brien, he seemed kind of loose yesterday. He was excited to see what DT could do for his offense. And obviously, he started 0-3. They're now 5-3 and really in control, I think, in the AFC South. Meanwhile, Vance Joseph, the second-year coach of the Denver Broncos, always like talking to him. He has a great perspective of things, but he's also under a little heat here in Denver in his second year. There's Deshaun Watson getting ready to roll for today's game. Today's game is also available in Spanish. Just use the SAP button. Irvin is back deep to receive. Joe Webb is back there as well, and we may talk a lot about Joe Webb. We are underway from Denver, Colorado, and nobody's going to return that one. So the Texans will begin 1st and 10 from their 25, and it's our first look, of course, with Deshaun Watson. Boy, he is so talented. The injury derailed him last year, but he had such good numbers to start this season, and he just seems to be getting better and better as the year goes on. Yeah, and coming off arguably his best game as a pro. Heck, he had more touchdown passes last week than he did incompletions. He was 16 of 20 for 239 yards, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. We'll see if he can build off of that today. Demaryius Thomas is in the slot to the top. Receiver to the near side is Hopkins. That's the tight end in motion. And the first run of the day for Lamar Miller. And Steve, you said it during the outset. He is so important running behind this offensive line, which continues to get better. And as Bill O'Brien told us yesterday, it's an offensive line that's getting healthier and healthier. Nick Martin, Zach Fulton starting at the right guard position. They'll have Mans come in a little bit just like they have. And that is the key, though, to get that run game established. And I think the other key is to find a way to get Demaryius Thomas involved early as well. Alfred Blue gets his first touch, and he stood up close to the first down marker. Pecco steps in to make that tackle. And he's part of a solid defensive line for the Broncos. I think Derek Wolfe thought that he came out of that pile with the football. They're the linebackers. Josie Jewell was making the start today for the injured Brandon Marshall, but it really does start with Von Miller. 3rd down and less than a yard. Think they're just going to run it again? I would suspect, yeah. You go behind that big offensive line. This is an offense that ran for 188 yards last week. They've been really productive. Well, they're going to run the option, and the pitch goes late to Blue, and he's able to get the first down up across the 35. That's because he broke a tackle. Todd Davis made the tackle, but he slipped one behind the line of scrimmage. Well, that was a really nice job by Von Miller on the edge, confusing Deshaun Watson. Didn't give him a clean read on that option. Deshaun wanted Von Miller to commit either to the pitch back or to him, and Von Miller slow played it. It was very difficult for him to convert that 3rd down. Lamar Miller back in the ball game. Thomas in motion. On first down from the 36. Quick toss to Thomas, trying to rely on his athleticism, and he's got a first down and inside Denver territory. And he's knocked out of bounds by Justin Simmons. Well, that'll ease the Butterflies. Well, we said let's get him involved early. Right here, that's all that completion was set up for, to establish confidence in Demaryius Thomas that he's going to be part of things, but also to tell the Denver Broncos we are not going to keep from going to this guy just because he's only been here a couple days. They should expect to see him involved in this game plan. Gain of 31 yards. It's first down from the 33 off the play fake. Watson looking to throw. Middle of the field. Thomas again. Well, they certainly aren't afraid to find him. And I'm surprised. I really am surprised. That was the first one to get him that quick pass. I think was easy to expect and see. But right here off the hard play action, it's a timing route up the field. This ball's got to be delivered at the right depth on time in front of the safety. And for Deshaun Watson to have confidence in Thomas this early, that's impressive. Gain of 18 yards. Joe Webb is in as the slot receiver to the right. Now the handoff goes to Miller, and Miller down to the 13. Zach Kerr makes the tackle. Every NFL team, if you're going to be successful, you have to be balanced. And that's what the Texans have been during this 5-game winning streak. They really have. This is Lamar Miller shooting for his 3rd consecutive game over 100 yards today. It's a different ball club than what they were the first 3 games of the year when they were really struggling and a lot of people counted them out. try to get a score, try to get a touchdown for the first time in 13 games on their opening drive. Watson can run, and he slides down shy of the 6-yard line. Todd Davis will be credited with the tackle.
Well, that's a great job by Deshaun Watson. You have to account for this when you're playing Deshaun Watson and the Texans. He will not hesitate to take the football, tuck it, and run. And he's very athletic. He can finish it off both ways. Right here, though, an area where the Texans really struggled early in the season was the red zone. Last 2 weeks, they're 6 for 6. They've really improved in this area, and that's been a huge difference as well.
Including 4 for 4 last week in the victory over the Dolphins. Trips to the far side. Watson looking to throw. Back in the end zone. Touchdown, Houston. Jordan Thomas with his 3rd touchdown in 2 weeks.
Yeah, the rookie 6th-round draft choice out of Mississippi State. 2 short touchdowns last week. I think they've established in the red zone this is going to be a go-to guy. Just an isolation route on the backside. Had a good matchup against Josie Jewell, who you said earlier, Tom, in for the injured Brandon Marshall. That's a matchup they decided they wanted to exploit.
Boy, it was impressive to watch against the Dolphins how Thomas sort of evolved. And he was in because Ryan Griffin was out with an illness. Griffin is active again. Here's the point after. It's good. 7-0 Houston.
The Thomas brothers.
That's right. That's a nice way to get it rolling here in Denver if you're the Houston Texans. Touchdown to Thomas, the tight end. We'll be back after this. Well, you've read all week. It hasn't happened that often where somebody is traded earlier in the week and then gets a chance to face his team in the next game. This is how many times it's happened. Mike Thomas back in 2012. That's in the last 15 years. It is an oddity. Thomas obviously making his presence known already, which we anticipated. Bill O'Brien told us that yesterday. 2 catches for 49 yards.
And with the timing of the injury to Will Fuller and the timing of the trade deadline, everything just fell in place for this deal to go through. And boy, we're already seeing the benefit for the Houston Texans.
And John Elway went out of his way this past week to say that Thomas was a great Bronco, and you can see the numbers right here. He was a great Bronco and will be in their Ring of Honor in the future. And this is what DT said earlier today to Bronco Nation. I'll be forever grateful for my time in Denver and for playing a part in bringing a Super Bowl trophy to the Mile High City. Thank you to my teammates, coaches, and the entire Broncos organization for inspiring me every day. Hey, listen, Emmanuel Sanders told us he was hugging the lunch ladies when he left the other day. First down for the 25 for Case Keenum, the Denver Broncos offense. Keep an eye on Cortland Sutton, number 14, and an eye on Phillip Lindsay, who runs the ball for the first time. So Keenum, 10 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. He has an interception in each game this year. He hasn't had his breakout game yet.
He has not, and in 8 consecutive games with at least 1 interception. That's a trend that Case Keenum wants to end, and also Vance Joseph, everybody affiliated with the Broncos. Remember now, the whole year last year, Case Keenum only had 7 interceptions. He's thrown 8 so far in 8 games. He's got to get that under control.
They go with an I formation. Janovich in motion. Again, it's Lindsay, and Lindsay right up the middle to the 26-yard line. He gets a couple yards back. Brian Peters makes the tackle. This is an offensive line, much like the Denver Broncos offensive line, that they feel like is getting better. I mean, Garrett Bowles obviously is going to be challenged today. Jared Valdir is going to be challenged. And this receiving core is young, but also very athletic too.
A lot of big playability in this receiving core, but this Houston Texans defense, the 7th they were against the run this year in the NFL, you're playing into their hands right now, 3rd and long.
3rd down and 9. They need to get to the 35-yard line for a first down. Pass is deflected at the line of scrimmage, incomplete. It was intended for Tim Patrick, and it was tipped by Duke Ejiofor, excuse me.
That's one of those names you got to say it a couple times. Ejiofor, yeah, he goes right off his helmet, and about as bad a situation as the Broncos could hope to start this game. A long touchdown drive by the Texans, then a 3 and out. Their defense is back on the field now.
Irvin back deep to receive. He'll try to return this one for the Texans. And he's up across the 30 to the 31-yard line. Well, Deshaun Watson got a score on his opening possession for the first time in 13 games for the Texans.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Kay Jewelers. For all the moments, for love, forever. Sonic. This is how you Sonic. And by the Honda family of SUVs.
Kind of cool. On Tuesday, the Broncos kicked off Salute to Service Month with a visit to Fort Carson Army Base in Colorado Springs. They got a chance to be part of the flight simulation. It's pretty neat to be part of that. Second series for the Texans. Lamar Miller has stood up and tossed back. No gain on the play. All right, so Demaryius Thomas, first opportunity to get a touch for the Texans. It went well.
Yeah, you know, they had to get him involved early for his confidence, and also, as I said, to make the Broncos respect him. And this is more than I expected. Up the field throws to Demaryius Thomas, symbolizing or signifying that they're not afraid to incorporate him fully into this offense.
John Perry, the wide receivers coach, went through the motions with him yesterday before they left Houston, and they felt like he knew exactly where he was supposed to go. That was Hopkins in motion. Watson looking to throw on second down. Has time. Flushed out of the pocket. Still plenty of time, and he just throws it away. Intended for Jordan Akins, one of the tight ends.
Well, you saw the first down play, though. Adam Gotsis stuffed Lamar Miller for no gain on that first play. You've got to be able to shut down this Texans team on first down. Deshaun Watson, much more effective, as all quarterbacks are, in more balanced situations where you got a second and short as opposed to second or third and long. Right now, got to be careful about forcing a throw into this Denver defense.
Yeah, the Denver defense has been better the last couple weeks against the run. 69 yards allowed and 49 yards allowed. It's third down and 9. Play clock is down to 2. He gets it off with the play clock at 1. Pressure's covered. He doesn't realize it. Breaks away from Chubb and is taken down at the 20-yard line. Derek Wolfe will get credit for the sack, but Bradley Chubb, for the first time, nearly got Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, he said that back in college he never got to Deshaun Watson when he was playing at NC State and Deshaun was playing for Clemson, obviously. Right there, flew right past him. That's what created the pressure that allowed Wolfe to get in there for the sack. Good pressure off the edge by Chubb.
A loss of nearly 9 yards on the play. Adam Jones back deep to receive this punt. He comes running up and decides to break away. There is a flag that sits on the far side. Brennan Scarlett makes the special teams tackle. This will be the first time we hear Clay Martin, the referee, in his first year as an NFL referee. Clay Martin chatting with some of his crew about who the penalty is against and what the penalty was. Our own Gene Steratore retired, and that opened the door for a couple of new referees, including Clay. I guess they're trying to get it right.
Well,
there,
a lot
Steve
of factors to consider on the special teams.
During your
kicking
return,
game.
personal foul, face mask, kicking team number 33. 15 yards added to the end of the play. First down, timeout.
A.J. Moore called for the penalty, our first of the day. All right, so Case Keenum trying to come back down 7-0 when we return. Houston Texans started the season 0-3, and the teams that have done that to make the playoffs, you go back to the 92 San Diego Chargers, the 95 Detroit Lions, they finished 10-6. The 98 Buffalo Bills also finished 10-6 and played in the wild card game. That's what they're trying to do, and as we mentioned, they're in control right now in their division. Meanwhile, the Broncos trying to make sure they stay alive for a possible playoff run. Keenum is hit as he throws to Lindsey. It's incomplete. Bill O'Brien reminded us yesterday that, you know, his team is still the 5th youngest team in the National Football League, despite having J.J. Watt and guys like that.
Yeah, they're young, but they're also, you got leaders like J.J. Watt coming to this football team. And by the way, he's the one that created the pressure on Case Keenum right there already. And he's told us he's faced as much as a triple team this year before already. And we know that Vance Joseph told us they're going to do whatever they've got to do to keep him off of Case Keenum today.
Yeah, he was funny yesterday talking about some of the alignments that have made him laugh a little bit. Here's Lindsey on the draw, and Lindsey scampers outside and just got a couple. Kareem Jackson, who was starting at cornerback, came up to make the tackle.
Let me tell you, that's an outstanding open field tackle by Kareem Jackson. If he doesn't make that tackle, Lindsey is going to bounce it down the sideline for a nice game.
Boy, we really enjoyed meeting with Philip Lindsay on Friday. I mean, he's got such an effervescent personality, and he's got 2 chips on his shoulder. Not one, but 2, because he wasn't invited to the combine, and he wasn't drafted, but signed by the Broncos. A lot of other teams wanted him, but he wanted to stay here, and he's wearing TD's number 30. Terrell Davis is number 30. 17th player to play his high school, college, and NFL in Colorado. And there is Sutton breaking a couple of tackles and knocked out of bounds inside the 30-yard line. Natrell Jamison makes the tackle. Well, they wanted to get him going here today.
Well, you're going to see Sutton coming across the middle underneath there from left to right, and only 17 catches on the year, but that is one of the reasons why they made the Demaryius Thomas trade. They want to get this guy more targets. In fact, Bill Musgrave, the offensive coordinator, told us, hey, I want to throw the ball to him 10 more times a game if we can, because good things happen when we throw to number 14.
Yeah, he said his 2 SMU guys, Sanders and Sutton. A short gain for Lindsey as a flag comes flying in from the backside. Tyrann Mathieu put his hands up and said, what did we do? The flag sits at the 21-yard line. The play went to the left. The flag is to the right.
Yeah, it was completely backside and from way back in the back, the defensive backfield.
Illegal block in the back. Offense, number 14. 10-yard penalty from the dead ball spot. Replay the down.
All right, so it's against Sutton of the Broncos. It's not against the Texans. Let's look at the Texans defense, which obviously is led by J.J. Watt, Wynton Merciless, Benardrick McKinney, and Jadeveon Clowney, who was a question mark coming into today's ballgame. He's been battling a groin, so they worked him out before the ballgame, and he was good to go.
Yeah, I talked to Romeo Crennel down on the field before the game, and he said, yeah, we worked him out hard. He seems like he's going to be just fine.
So the ball is moved back to the 37-yard line. It's 1st and 20. Keenum looking to throwing toward the end zone for Sutton, and he's got it, and he dropped it. It was knocked away after it was in his hands. Sharice Wright made the defensive play.
Well, Sharice Wright is feeling pretty good about himself on that one, but Cortland Sutton should have made this catch. That ball was thrown up on time, on the money from Case Keenum. You'll see Sutton. There's no, you know what? It actually was a great play by Sharice Wright. He stripped that ball out of there. I thought it went right through Sutton's hands, but no, Sharice Wright, every right in the world to celebrate there.
He's starting instead of Jonathan Joseph, who was inactive today. Joseph was injured in the Dolphins game. Here's Lindsey on 2nd down and long, and Lindsey down to the 35, and he is popped. Kareem Jackson makes the tackle. That's the thing about Lindsey, though. He's 180 pounds. He popped right back up.
He did, but what you're not used to seeing right here now is a cornerback tackling like Kareem Jackson is off the edge. You don't normally see corners that come in and support like that, but remember, Kareem Jackson's a safety.
Correct.
He's normally up there in run support, so that will help them on the edge as far as not letting Lindsey get to the outside.
All right, so now the Broncos facing a 3rd down and 18. Quick snap, quick toss to to Janovich. Janovich out of the backfield gets a few yards back and out of bounds at the 26. Benardrick McKinney made the tackle, and the Broncos will attempt a field goal.
Well, that was just an effort by Billy Musgrave, the offensive coordinator. Case Keenum knew exactly what they wanted to do with that quick snap, try and get about half of it back to shorten the field goal for their kicker.
Well, they certainly have a weapon in Brandon McManus. 12 of 13 so far this year. This will be a 44-yard field goal attempt. Good snap, good hold. Kick is on its way, and it is good. A flag comes in late. The kick was already going through the uprights when the flag was dropped. McManus is saying it's against the Texans.
So that might be a 1st down.
Well, the offense for the Broncos is getting ready to go back on the field.
There is no foul on the play. The result of the play is a successful field goal. Timeout.
All right, so Denver's on the board. It's 7-3 thanks to the field goal by McManus. We'll be back in the first quarter right after this.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. And by Verizon. The best unlimited is on Verizon, America's most awarded network.
Well, Bronco fans know Parker the Snow Dog, a 2-year-old Bernese Mountain Dog. And here in Denver, he's known as the Broncos and Von Miller's #1 fan. In fact, that last shot was him outside the stadium before today's ball game. Beautiful dog. We actually saw him yesterday. The kickoff goes out of the end zone. The Texans will take it at the 25-yard line, and Von Miller and the rest of the Broncos defense will go back to work. He was wearing a knee brace on Friday when we were at practice, and we were a little concerned. You know, he had a knee brace on his left knee, and then all of a sudden he started dancing, and he started making basketball moves. So the knee is okay. He was just wearing the brace just to stabilize things.
Yeah, you know, who knows the reasoning behind why a lot of these guys do what they do. He's wearing the brace today. It was on his left leg as well. So it's probably precautionary more than anything. It's not slowing him down, I can tell you that.
Deshaun Watson, 3 of 4, 56 yards. Off the play fake. Sets up in Lofswan, and he's got Thomas for a first down. Out of bounds, close to the 37-yard line, a gain of 12.
Well, this is a really tough deal here now. When you're talking about a bootleg and the receiver having to understand the timing of the route, that's a very hard, precise concept to really execute, and shows me right there that Demaryius Thomas fitting right in with and especially with the confidence that Deshaun Watson has in him. We haven't even seen a ball go to Hopkins yet.
Yeah, since the start of 2016, he's already reached his average per game. This is Alfred Blue, and Blue powers his way close to the 39. Gotsis makes the tackle for the Broncos. What did Bill O'Brien tell us yesterday? That, you know, they have to be careful with Lamar Miller, that they've really run him into the ground over the last couple of years, so they make sure they get Blue in there to offset things.
I think his word was abused. We've abused him.
He did say abused.
Because of how much they've had him run the ball up in there, but they know that they've got a good quality backup in Alfred Blue, and so they're gonna balance it out and not try to put too much on Lamar Miller.
That's Thomas in motion. He's got a touchdown reception. Hopkins does not have a target yet. Watson looking his way, and he makes the leaping grab and then drops it. Let's see what the officials say. I think they're going to say it's a catch. Yep, they're going to say it's a catch to the 46.
Well, the rules have changed now in the NFL as far as what is a catch and what isn't a catch. It does not have to be under control all the way through the ground anymore. He had control of that ball, and you can see he's tucked it away. The ground causes the fumble. He's taken down. That is a catch.
Yeah, they're going to challenge it. The Broncos are. Vance Joseph dumped the challenge flag in front of his feet at the 48-yard line. I think you're right, though, Steve. I think he had it, and then it just popped out.
Yeah, that ball was being tucked away. I don't know. I understand why Vance Joseph is upset, and by the old rules, that
Denver's
would be
challenging the ruling on the field of a completed catch. The previous play is now under review.
Well, it's a 15-yard reception. We'll be back in 30 seconds after this from Lowe's. (7-3) Texans on top of the Broncos. Vance
After
Joseph.
review, the ruling on the field is confirmed. It is a completed catch. Denver will be charged 1 timeout.
Vance Joseph challenged that flag. Gene Steratore is with us back in New York. Gene, what did you see on that play?
I see exactly a catch for these reasons. We have possession, and in this sequence, possession, 2 feet, and then either a time element or a third step or body part. And as we see after the 2 feet, as that receiver is falling, the knee does hit the ground while he still has possession. The catch is finished at that point, and then the ground cannot cause a fumble. So the confirmation of a catch is the correct ruling.
Yeah, that's a good call by the
100%,
officials.
100%.
And they talked about it, too. Gene, thanks for joining us. A nice job by that, Steve. You saw that the whole way. Here's Watson to throw again, and his pass is incomplete. Intended for Akins as tight ends. That's when they said his elbow was down.
He said it's a catch, yeah, elbow down. But the knee down before it, as Gene said, that was really when the play ended. As soon as the knee hits, by contact with the defender, play's over.
Second down and 10. 3:02 to play in the first quarter. Handoff goes to Blue, and Blue assessing before he gets down inside the 45. He'll get to the 43. A flag comes in. Shelby Harris made the tackle for the Broncos.
Holding. Defense. Number 92. 5 yards added to the end of the run. First down.
Boy, that came from way back in the defensive backfield too. That's a interesting call. I don't know if I've seen that call made. Interior defensive line. He doesn't. Kerr doesn't believe it. I know that.
Well, they'll spot the ball at the 38-yard line. Joe Webb, by the way, is in the ball game as a receiver. He wears number 5. He's to the top. The third-string quarterback. Off the play fake, Watson sets up in the pocket, has time, breaks away, and he's going to run it inside the 30. Actually, they'll spot it probably at the 31-yard line because that's where he began his slide.
And there is nothing that deflates and frustrates a defense more than this. You're going to see Von Miller coming off the backside, and then I don't know who was coming up the middle. It was also Todd Davis coming up inside, and Deshaun Watson is athletic enough to slip right between the two of them. They run into each other, and they end up getting knocked to the ground. Deshaun Watson makes a nice pickup.
Well, we talked about the balance that he has. This is the 7th play, 3 runs, 3 passes. And you see how protected he has been. Urban's in the backfield. And this will be his first run as he dives forward, and he's close to a first down. Actually, it's Alfred Blue.
Well, you talked about the protection on Deshaun Watson. That's been a huge improvement over the last few weeks. We see the run here by Blue. But I think the bigger issue for the Texans, Deshaun Watson was beat up earlier in this season. The well-documented injuries. They were averaging about 11 QB hits a game on him through the first 5 weeks of the season. Now, the last couple weeks, only about 3 QB hits per game. So, big improvement up front. And also Deshaun Watson getting rid of the football.
It's first down from the 28-yard line. It's Blue again, and Blue running right inside the 25. Down to the 24, and another flag comes in from the backside. Boy, he's busy back there, isn't he?
Boy, he's getting an arm workout.
Looks like it's holding against the Texans.
Holding. Offense. Number 73. 10-yard penalty from the end of the run. Replay first down.
Zach Fulton called for the hold. He's number 73.
We're going to see 73 yet. You can see him wrapped up there on Jewell.
He is kind of wrapped up on Jewell.
He is wrapped up. I mean, that's a tough call, though, because they're fully engaged. He wasn't outside the framework of the body, but definitely was holding him.
Quick toss to the near side for Hopkins, and Hopkins gets inside the 30-yard line, almost back to the original line of scrimmage. And that is probably the final play of the first quarter.
You see just a nice, so you see those linemen getting out front, but everybody's running these plays now, the quick screen outside, and you just try to get the ball into your playmakers' hands as quickly as possible. Let them do the rest.
18 seconds and the clock is stopped.
Oh, they're saying that Jewell might be showing some symptoms that they're concerned about. The referee can remove a player from the field if he sees something that might signify a concussion question.
Yeah, he's not happy about it, obviously.
So there's either a call that came from upstairs saying they noticed something on the last play in the replay, because all these plays are replayed specifically for that reason. Every single time this is going on upstairs in the stadiums, evaluating anybody that looks like they might be a little bit wobbly or questionable. You'll see Jewell comes in right there.
The end of the first quarter.
Doesn't look like it's hitting the head at all.
Well, that's the end of the first quarter. Houston up 7-3. We'll return to Denver after these messages. You're watching the NFL on CBS, the home of Super Bowl 53. Josie Jewell went into the blue tent. He was assessed. They had his helmet taken away. He got that back, and it looks like he's good to go. In fact, he started to head out, but he's got to sit out at least the one play. It's second down at 11. Watson out of the gun. That's Blue in the backfield next to him. Urban's in as well. He's in motion. The handoff goes to Blue, and Blue up the middle. And he gets a couple of yards down to the 27-yard line. All right, so this is Josie Jewell getting hurt. He's number 47.
Watch the right knee of Hopkins right there. When the head goes down, I think his head kind of hits that knee a little bit, and you see he's just slow getting up, and you can see it more from this angle. Something wasn't right, and you got to tip your hat to the officials for noticing that. We always want to err on the side of caution. Jewell back out there now. Or actually not on the field, but he's ready to go back out there.
All right, so now the Texans facing a third down. This is the 11th play of the drive. Lamar Miller back in the backfield. Watson steps up in the pocket. Pumps, has some daylight, trying to get to the first down marker, and he's just short. Todd Davis stayed with them.
Yeah, that's the right spot, Deshaun. You're going to argue, but it was a good job closing the gap on the outside. You're going to see it's not where the ball lands once Deshaun Watson hits the ground. It's where it crosses the sideline, and I think that was about a half a yard to a yard short of the first down marker. He swings the ball to his left hand there. So I think it is a good spot. Deshaun Watson thinks it's a bad spot, but I think they got it right.
So they're going to go for it on fourth down in less than a yard. That's Thomas in motion. It's Blue running the ball, and he didn't get it. He tried to hurdle over his own man, and Bradley Chubb was there to make the hit. Gotsis was there as well. Loss of one on the play. Heck of a job by the Denver defense. The Broncos will take over when we get back. Well, a heck of a job by the Broncos defense. The Texans were going for it on fourth down. Yeah, they were stopped. So now Case Keenum and the Broncos take over. Lacoste came in motion out of the backfield. He'll line up on the left side of the offensive line, and J.J. Watt moves. But did somebody move before him?
It depends on who you ask.
False start. Offense. Number 82. 5-yard penalty. First down.
So Hireman is called for the movement.
Let's see Hireman. He's right here on the right side. Right there. Let's check him out.
I actually think it was Valdir that moved first there, Steve.
Yeah.
Looked like his rear end popped up. Two receivers to the top. And Hireman in motion. Keenum out of the gun. Quick toss near side for Sanders. Sanders is taken down. That is a good one-on-one tackle by Kareem Jackson.
I'll tell you what, he's the defensive MVP right now for the Houston Texans at this point. The open field tackling ability, he is definitely tackling like a safety, much more than you would expect out of a corner out there. Showing he's very versatile. They've got several safeties. Romeo Crennel knows he's got several safeties that have corner experience, so they're able to interchange these guys due to the injuries that they've had recently.
Booker checks in for Lindsey in the backfield. Yeah, the Texans show blitz, and I think Merciless jumped a little too soon. Whitney Merciless, number 59.
Neutral zone infraction. Defense. Number 59. 5-yard penalty. Still second down.
Yeah, Merciless knew that he was guilty. Didn't even try to blame it on the Broncos. Most of the time they try to blame it on somebody else.
Well, it's a gain of 5 for the Broncos up to the 22-yard line. 7-3 Houston. The Texans scored on the opening drive when it was cloudy, and now the sun has popped out. There's Sanders coming in motion in the backfield. Keenum from the shotgun. Looks to Sanders. Now dumps it off to Booker. And Booker has a blocker. And he fumbles the ball. It's picked up by Justin Reed. Now the Texans will get it back.
That's inexcusable for Booker here in this situation. Backed up inside your own 30-yard line. You had a play that looked like it could have gone for big yards, but again, nicely defended in the open field by the Texans, and it wasn't even that big of a hit. It was just popped out. He was carrying it loosely. I don't know if I think that was I think it was Matthew that actually.
Tyrann Mathieu came in.
I think he popped it out, got his left hand in there, but Booker got to be more secure with that football. It wasn't the hit that knocked it out. Matthew just poked it out of there.
Longest active streak in the NFL, 12 straight games with at least one turnover. First down for the Texans from the 22-yard line. That's Thomas, the tight end, in motion. The handoff goes to Miller. There's not much there, and he is pushed back. The pile was stalled at the 25-yard line. Will Parks will be credited with the tackle.
Well, this Broncos defense giving up coming into this game an average of over 5 yards per rush. They're really focused on stopping Lamar Miller to this point. Only 8 yards now on 4 carries on the day for him.
Yeah, that backs up these last 2 games where their rush defense has been solid. Play clock down to 7. Watson having time, throws to the right, and Hopkins has got it out of bounds at the 12-yard line. Josie Jewell in on the coverage.
Well, this ball stuck right on the money by Deshaun Watson. That's a good pass. Josie Jewell's going to have a hard time running all over the field trying to cover DeAndre Hopkins.
So a gain of 9 yards. The ball is spotted inside the 17. 2 tight ends, Thomas and Griffin.
That's Thomas at the top there. Demaryius Thomas.
Watson looking that way. Now looks to the right. He's got Hopkins wide open. A 17-yard touchdown toss with some beautiful touch. The Texans are on top 13-3.
Well, that was a bust by the secondary of the Broncos. I don't know who was at fault. I think it was Jamerson who might be at fault, number 31. He came in too far, overcommitted, and gave the over-the-top throw. You can see Adam Jones coming in from the side saying, you know, that's your ball. You cannot give him that much room over there. And that's a rookie. Free agent out of Wisconsin, Jamerson. Big mistake there. 7
touchdown receptions by Hopkins, and the extra point is no good. So it remains 13-3. Hopkins is having himself a pretty good start to this ball game and a little celebration with his teammates.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by State Farm, here to help life go right. Wendy's new Sawsome Bacon Classic Cheeseburger. And by the Home Depot, more saving, more doing.
Well, back here at Denver, where the Texans have just scored off the turnover that set up the touchdown pass from Watson to Hopkins. 57 points now off turnovers for the Texans. And the kickoff goes out of the back of the end zone.
Well, Tom, I think the altitude got to me. This is not Jamerson. He plays for the other team. This is Justin Simmons, the safety for the Denver Broncos. You see him step up in there, and I think he was trying to cheat on a crossing route. He ended up overcommitting. That allows Hopkins to get behind, and you can see Adam Jones right there all over him saying you can't overcommit and give up that throw over the top. They were still arguing over on the sideline through the break. Simmons gave up a big one there.
So first down for the 25 for the Broncos, down 13-3. Fairbairn missed his first extra point of the year. Here is Lindsey, and Lindsey up to the 30 and to the 32-yard line, a gain of 7 yards.
You can see this kid, though, a lot with his build, his size. For Lindsey to get up into the way that he does between the tackles at only 5'8", 190 pounds, it's pretty impressive. He's got that scat back build, but he's got the toughness to run between the tackles.
Talking to Lauren Landau, the strength and conditioning coordinator, before the ball game, you know, he said he's listed at 180, but he plays like he's 225, 230. He's got that little stutter step. He freezes and then goes. And that's what separates him as Matthew makes the tackle. It'll be third down.
Yeah, Tyrann Mathieu never at a loss for words out in the football field. Right there, his emotion is always a part of his game. And there's Lauren Landau, the strength and conditioning coach.
Had a nice conversation with him before the ballgame. I said, when did you know that Lindsey was going to be a pro? He said, the first day I saw him. He said there was no question in his mind. A third down and 2. A slant drops. It was Hireman. He had it. Now he had to navigate through a little traffic, but that was a catchable ball. So that's a second ball today that should have been caught by the Broncos.
That was another one of those little screen passes, almost a designed pick play. You see Emmanuel Sanders right there. They were trying to run the Texan defenders into each other. You see all the bodies colliding, but Hireman's got to make that catch. Keenan put the ball there on time. It's a tough catch. It's coming hot and hard and everything else, but he's got to make that play.
Here's Colby Wadman as Irvin calls for the fair catch and catches it out of bounds. So the Texans on top by 10. 9:35 to play here in the first half in Denver. See on CBS features a doubleheader. First, Ole Miss takes on Texas A&M. Then one of the SEC's top defenses, Mississippi State, looks to slow down the nation's top offense, Alabama. Well, that's a yeoman's task to slow down the Alabama Crimson Tide. Here's Watson on first down. Gives it off to Miller. Miller stopped behind the line of scrimmage. But Bradley Chubb is all over the place.
He really is. He made that fourth down stop last series that denied the Texans picking up the first down. Right here again, just that penetration from the backside. Two incredible athletes in Von Miller and Bradley Chubb affecting almost every play.
We asked him on Friday, we said, when you got drafted by the Broncos, what was the first thing you thought? Was it that I get to play with Von Miller? He goes, no, I was a little concerned about the weather. On second down at 12, Watson quick pass to Hopkins, who had a hand fight going.
You remember my comment on Chubb. I said, well, you should have ended up in Cleveland. If you want to talk about bad weather, don't be complaining about Denver, my man.
Chubb, the 5th overall pick at NC State. The Broncos were shocked he was there. The Bronco Nagurski Award winner for the top defender. Already 5.5 sacks in his last 3 games.
Yeah, 7 on the year. I couldn't believe that Cleveland passed on him, but John Elway, no hesitation in making that pick at 5.
Texans are 3 of 5 on third down so far, facing a 3rd and 12. Vincent Smith in for the first time on the outside. Watson has plenty of time. He's directing traffic underneath to Miller now. And Miller will be just shy of the first down by a yard.
Really good defensive series there by the Broncos. As you said, Tom, excellent protection. Deshaun Watson had time to survey the whole field twice, but nobody open. He dumps it down, and Denver does a great job understanding where the sticks are, making the tackle short and forcing the punt.
Sua Cravens, by the way, was in on that tackle back for the first time for the Broncos, acquired from the Redskins. River Craycraft is back deep to receive for the Broncos. He was just activated this week. And here he goes. Craycraft tried to break one tackle. We'll be back in 30 seconds after this from Pizza Hut. Well, Case Keenum and the Denver Broncos have only 1 first down. Here are the first 4 possessions. They did get the field goal on the drive that started at the Denver 49.
But only 47 total yards. They've had a few drop balls. We've established that, but they've got to start making some plays offensively. Too much pressure on their defense.
Lindsey by himself in the backfield. Off the play action fake. Keenum steps up, fires, passes complete to the outside for Lacoste. And that'll be a first down and more as he hurdles inside Texans territory. Mathieu makes the tackle.
You're going to see the Lacoste is just lined up right here. He comes up the field and runs a corner pattern, and nobody's there on the outside. They just misplayed, lost leverage on him on the outside. The post pattern on the outside pulled the corner and the safety. A lot out of that play. That'll make you healthy quick. A big open receiver running down the sideline like that.
And there's the play action, which we talked about before. They wanted to do a lot more play action today to get Keenum to get passes downfield. At the 43-yard line of Denver, off the play fake again. A little screen, and it's a nice catch. That was a tough catch by Hireman. Hireman breaks a tackle and gets inside the 30-yard line. Well, that'll make up for that drop before.
It will, and Bill Musgrave had told us because of J.J. Watt and Jadeveon Clowney, the pressure they bring off the edge, you got to use your tight ends a lot more. You're going to have more 2 and 3 tight end sets, and you got to find ways to get them involved in the passing game. That's how you do it. The last 2 plays with the play action, try and find ways to get them free for catches and runs.
Keenum now 6 of 10 for 91 yards. That's Sanders in motion to the far side. Off the play fake again. Flags come in. He tries to avoid Watt, and he throws as Watt's got him on the ankles. And the pass is complete to Sanders, and we'll see who the penalty is against. It's a gain of 9 yards if it stands. It's going to be offsides against the Texans.
Offside. Defense, number 90, lined up in the neutral zone. 5-yard penalty, still first down.
All right, so Jadeveon Clowney.
I guess just lined up in the neutral zone. That probably he didn't move early. He just was lined up offsides. Broncos decide they want to take 1st and 5 as opposed to 2nd and 1.
Now they adjust the game clock. They move it to 6:31. Booker takes over for Lindsey. Patrick is in the slot to the right. And Sutton and Sanders to the left. Keenum looking right, lofts it right, pass is complete right. Well, he's been busy with his tight ends. 3rd reception for the tight end, 2nd one for Hireman on this drive.
Yeah, you're going to see, you got the matchup you want. This is McKinney, a linebacker lined up on the tight end out in the open field. The quarterback, as soon as he sees a linebacker lined up on a receiver like that on the outside, an athletic receiving tight end, you're going to take that matchup every time.
Well, it's a gain of 10. It'll be a first down for the 14 of Houston. A first down, the handoff goes to Booker. Booker gets to the edge. He's got daylight, and he's got a touchdown. That's the first rushing touchdown for Booker this year.
Well, we kind of called out the Bronco offense prior to this drive. They responded big time. A lot of nice completions by Case Keenum. And finished off by a good strong run by Booker. Nobody more excited about that than Case Keenum. He knew how important that drive was.
Yeah, Keenum 3 for 3, 68 yards on that drive. And now McManus for the point after to make it a field goal game. And McManus with a chip shot. Well, good blocking. It's a good setup of the play, and for Vance Joseph, his team's got himself a score. A pretty easy run. And a celebration for the Broncos.
Everybody happy there. If only it could be that easy all the time. Untouched into the end zone for Booker, making up for that fumble a little bit earlier as well.
Well, Thunder certainly likes it. 4 plays, 87 yards, 4 first downs. First rushing touchdown since week 8 of last season. So 13-10, Houston is on top of Denver with 5:33 to play here in the first half. And it was really a composed drive. I mean, only 4 plays, but some big plays.
Yeah, there were some big plays. With the play action worked very well, getting the ball to the tight ends on the outside, Lacoste and Hireman.
So it'll be a touchback Coming up on the Verizon Halftime Report, join JB, Phil, Nate, Boomer, and Coach Cowher for all the latest NFL scores and highlights. That's all coming up on the Verizon Halftime Report.
Well, let's look back at that touchdown one more time. Right here, you're going to see the safety. That's Tyson. He's got the support on this play, and you're going to see he gets caught down inside and it literally opens up that whole right side of the field. An easy play for the Denver Broncos offense. You had Lyman pulling that way as well, but really didn't need anybody out front. It was the whole Texan defense caved down inside.
Well, and a nice drive, as we said, for Case Keenum. Thomas, the tight end, in motion for the Texans. Akins was in the backfield as the fullback. Watson rolls the pocket for some space and out of bounds. Bradley Chubb went off the shoulders of Watson, who I think just stumbled down. No penalty. So a short gain, but still a positive gain.
Well, and Bradley Chubb told us, as we mentioned a little bit earlier, he's never gotten to Watson for a sack. And you can see, the athletic ability he has trying to run down Watson there, but he wants to get a piece of him whenever he can.
And he knew exactly how many games he played against him in college. Here's Lamar Miller up the middle. And Miller's close to a first down, maybe a half-yard shy. Todd Davis makes the tackle. And we're under 5 minutes to play. Bradley Chubb was there as well.
This was the best run we've seen out of the Texans in a while. The offensive line did control the line of scrimmage. That left side with Davenport and Clemente. Nice push. It gave a nice seam there for Miller to get up inside.
Irvin checks in. He's in the slot next to Thomas at the bottom of your screen. Hopkins at the top of your screen. On 3rd and 1. Hopkins outside has the first down. Harris knocks him out of bounds at the 37-yard line.
Well, it's really nice to have a receiver, one of the true elite receivers in the NFL today, and DeAndre Hopkins on the outside. You know, whenever he's singled up on the outside, you can find an easy completion out there to convert those 3rd downs. Teams do not want, defensive coordinators do not want to isolate one-on-ones against that guy, but every once in a while you have to do it.
It's officially a gain of 4 for first down. Here's Blue over the block of his left guard, and Blue gets close to the 45-yard line. Davis and Jewell make the tackle for the Broncos.
Yes, you see this Texan team, they'll get a little rhythm with this run game now. The Broncos really have had the edge the last few series, but right now getting back to old basic straight ahead power football, and they're doing a good job controlling the line of scrimmage up front.
Yeah, only one receiver in on 2nd down after a gain of nearly 7 yards. Alfred Blue takes the handoff, looking left. Jewell hits him behind the line of scrimmage, and it's a loss of 1.
Well, you see a great job by the defensive front. You see all the orange jerseys do a good job stringing this out, and then Jewell with the penetration up inside, running down Blue and finishing off the play. It was about a loss of 1 on that play.
Yeah, don't forget Jewell is playing for the injured Brandon Marshall, who's out with a knee injury. That's a big 3rd down for the Broncos defense. Miller out of the backfield. Play clock is down to 6. And Watson awkwardly takes the snap. He's in trouble trying to get away, runs into his own man, and he is sacked. He ran into Nick Martin, and that gave the Broncos pursuit some time to clean it up.
Well, Nick Martin, number 66, was trying to help Watson, but he almost throws him down.
Oh, man.
Right there. You know, you're getting those 3rd and 5 or more situations. It wasn't a clean catch by Deshaun Watson, but this Denver Broncos team can get after the passer pretty well right there. Deshaun Watson never got his eyes down the field.
DeMarcus Weaver is credited with the sack. We've reached the 2-minute warning. Texans on top, 13-10 over Denver.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Applebee's new neighborhood pastas. Eating good in the neighborhood. and by Progressive Insurance, handing off big savings to you.
Well, salute to service, and I'll tell you, that is dizzying. Did you ever do that, Steve?
Oh my
or would you ever
gosh,
do it?
I would never want to experience that in my lifetime.
I will say there's enough camera
dizzy.
angles. There's enough camera angles where we can experience it.
Oh, I would never want to do that.
Texans will punt the ball away. Adam Jones back at his 10, looking to return it, trying to get some room, breaks a tackle, and Joe Webb is trying to track him down. He can't, and now Jones will try to get to the outside as a flag comes in. I do believe that's going to be an illegal block called against the Broncos.
Well, with that much change of direction, right, left, someone's going to get hit in the back at some point. It's hard for the blockers to know what Jones is going to do when he keeps shifting field like that.
Clay Martin, the referee, chatting things over with his crew. We've had our fair share of penalties.
Yeah, we have.
This is the 8th one.
And they are talking things through on all of them.
Personal foul. Illegal blindside block. Receiving team number 38. Penalty will be enforced half the distance to the goal. First down.
All right, Shamarko Thomas is called for the penalty. Let's take a peek.
All right, running. We're trying to figure out where he's coming in from.
There he is right there, 38. He's, like you said, he didn't know where Jones was going, and then
Right
bam.
there, it was right there at the end of the play. You could see it was a kind of a blindside block.
So now the Broncos will have to go 95 yards to try to get a touchdown with 1:42 to play. They have 2 timeouts. Don't forget they used the timeout on the challenge. Booker is in the backfield. Off the play fake. A quick pass to Hireman. And Hireman makes a few men miss and is still on his feet before he's knocked out of bounds by McKinney. Tyrann Mathieu, who doesn't miss much, he missed there.
Well, great job by Hireman. Really, the play was made by Case Keenum in the backfield, though. Coming out of the play action fake, J.J. Watt was right in his face, unblocked by design, but it's hard for the quarterback to try to find a lane to get it around a man that big. Case Keenum did a nice job delivering a catchable ball to Hireman.
Well, Keenum's found his rhythm. He's now 5 for his last 5, 8 of 12 overall for 115 yards.
Watch out for here, Mathieu off the edge. He's a blitzer off the edge.
They find Sanders, and Sanders gets close to a first down. And the clock will wind, 125, 124. When do you start using timeouts or thinking about it?
Well, you're going to make a first down here. I think when you get inside a minute, you'll start using the timeouts.
Inside handoff to Booker, and Booker is smashed by Jackson and J.J. Watt.
They're going to take one now to talk about this third down play.
Edge of 4 is down on the field at the 40-yard line after the run for no gain. Again, the linebacking crew is already without Zach Cunningham, but they do have depth at that position. Edge of 4, Kais and Peters were going to mix in for Cunningham. Watch up number 53.
Right here getting driven in. Yeah.
Boy, he's hurt even with just that block right there, Steve.
Yeah, there was something that happened prior to getting thrown into the ball. Or thrown into the ground, excuse me.
We got 1:10 to play.
Yeah, it looks like he's favoring that shoulder. He might have, and when he was taking on the block, he might have gotten a stinger where his arm just kind of went a little bit limp there.
All right, so the Texans will use a timeout there. It's not a timeout for the Broncos because of the injury as we get closer to half. So Keenum does get a chance to chat about that particular play, this 3rd down and 1. What would you do on 3rd and 1 here as a quarterback? Would you want to just dump it off to get a quick first down?
Well, you have to get the first down here because you got to come out of this with points to go into at the half. So if I would personally, I'd like to see a little bit of a play action bootleg.
That is where he's at his best, when he bootlegs out. Instead, they're going to hand it off to Lindsey, and Lindsey does have the first down up to the 31.
They're going to get up on the ball quick. They called 2 plays in the huddle, so everybody knows what the next play is already. They'll try to get a quick snap here.
As we wind under a minute to play in the first half, Keenum from the shotgun steps up in the pocket, throws to the middle for Sanders, and Sanders gets 10 yards. And a flag comes in, and they're going to get Matthew for something.
He lowered head to
He said
head.
he hit his shoulder. And he is not pleased. He got up, though, immediately and pointed to his shoulder, and the flag came in as he got up.
Well, the difference in the NFL versus college is you're not going to go back and review this as far as a targeting rule or something of that nature, but I think they're going to call with a head-to-head and defenseless receiver.
All right, let's take a look. They isolate Sanders. He gets away from Jackson.
Personal foul. Lowering the head to initiate contact. Defense.
So
15-yard penalty added to the play. First down.
So this is really tough for a defensive player, because Matthew is 100% right. He used his shoulder, but you cannot go to the head or neck area with your shoulder or your helmet, even if a receiver is down that low to the ground. Sanders was very low. There's almost no way Matthew could have hit him and avoided hitting him in the head. It's a very tough position for these defensive players to be in now, but by the rule, you go to the head with any part of your body, that's going to be called.
All right, so they're getting closer to McManus's field goal range with 47 seconds left to play here in the first half at a 3-point game.
Well, Broncos are thinking touchdown right now at this point with 2 timeouts left.
Keenum to the middle, and his receiver fell down. It'll be second down. Let's check in with Gene Steratore. Gene, what did you see on that play, and did you agree with the call by the officials?
By the description of Clay Martin, the referee, he announced that foul as illegal use of the helmet. That was not a legal use of the helmet. I think Matthew turns his shoulder and initiates his contact with the shoulder to the head neck area. Now that's a foul on a defenseless receiver. That's a different type of foul. What he announced was illegal use of the helmet. By that announcement, I disagree with that. The question you'd ask next is, do you think that this receiver became a runner? If he did, that contact is legal. If he did not, it's a hit on a defenseless receiver in the head or neck area. But again, by the announcement, illegal use of the helmet, I believe, is an incorrect description on that play.
Well, Gene, we appreciate that. And Steve, that's kind of what you said. It's kind of difficult right now to decipher sometimes for some of the players.
We've got an injury on the field right now.
Paradis, the center, is down on the field. So Case Keenum is off to the near side, working with the backup center. It's going to be Connor McGovern, who will move from right guard to the center position.
And that'll bring either Turner or Wilkinson in at right guard.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy that came into the ball game, Matt Paradis, with 3,580 consecutive snaps.
And you hate to see the cart coming out there now too. That's generally not a good sign.
His teammates waved almost immediately.
But you can see he's backed up right there. You can just see he got nothing good comes when you get rolled up from behind. You can see immediately number 61 right here.
And it was Case Keenum that came on from behind because he was hit as he threw that football.
Right.
Jadeveon Clowney hit him. In fact, Clowney, this is a very classy move, went over and said something to Paradis as he was going to the cart.
Yeah, make no mistake about it. These guys want to hit each other. They want to hit each other hard.
Right.
They want to win the physical battle, but they don't want to see players getting hurt with any kind of a significant injury. And hopefully that will not be the case with Paradis, but in general, going off on a cart is not a good sign.
In this day and age, I mean, think about it. It's been 3 years since he missed a snap. I mean, we gave you the lofty number. It sounds really big. 3,580 snaps coming in.
That's a lot of snaps.
That's a lot of snaps. And you know, it's 3 years. And that's what you want. You want that durability. So McGovern will be the center. The third-year pro out of Missouri.
So back to the penalty, though, call as the cart goes off the field.
Yeah.
What we were explaining, that the call that was made was not consistent with what happened on the field. But the shoulder to the head, if you determined that Sanders was a defenseless receiver, that would have been a penalty called, but a little bit confusing how it all came down.
All right, so Booker checks back into the backfield. It's second and 10. Good timing by the Texans. Sanders, though, takes the pass and is stopped by Jackson.
And again, Kareem Jackson, cannot say enough about him. If you're Bill Musgrave and him, you're trying to get that matchup one-on-one in the open field, thinking your guy can make a miss.
26 seconds to play. They try to dump it to the middle for Booker, but nothing there. Pressure was there by Watt and Clowney. Coming up on the Verizon Halftime Report, join JB, Phil, Nate, Boomer, and Coach Cower for all the latest NFL scores and highlights. It's all coming up on the Verizon Halftime Report.
That was the trifecta of pass rushers from
yes,
Texas. Merciless was in there as well. Those are the three that really scare you from a pass rushing standpoint. And it looks as though Denver's going to try a super long field goal.
62-yard field goal. This would be the longest field goal for McManus. His longest this year is 56. Good snap, good hold. Kick is on its way. End over end, and it is short to the right. Actually, it may not have been short. It was just to the right. So now with 18 seconds left, the Texans will take over.
If I was Vance Joseph right there, I would have taken a timeout. You had one timeout left. They were rushed. They were inside of 5 seconds to get set up for, as you said, the longest field goal of McManus's life, most likely. I would have said, let's get this under control. Take a timeout. Let him get his rhythm and his timing and everything set up before the kick. Easy to say that now after the fact.
Well, and now on the flip side, if you're the Texans, you have 18 seconds. You can take some shots here if you want to.
You got 2 timeouts. You got at least 3 plays to get yourself into field goal range. You figure they got to be inside the 40 here in Denver.
Miller in the backfield, Watson out of the gun on first down inside Broncos territory. And his pass is complete to Griffin on the outside, and Griffin will go out of bounds at the 35-yard line. Well, that was just too easy offensively for the Texans.
Really was. Yeah, you burned only 7 seconds, and you picked up more than enough yards to get your kicker inside a field goal range. And the target line, it's from my opinion, it's anywhere inside the 40-yard line here in Denver for most of these kickers, as long as the weather is not a factor. The wind is not blowing at all. So now it becomes a question: do the Texans want to take a shot at the end zone with 2 timeouts still?
And we asked Bill O'Brien yesterday. Timeout is called by the Texans.
Takes their second timeout.
We asked Bill O'Brien
30 seconds.
If Fairbairn's distance, if he would take the altitude into account. He said we would, but we would still have him kick before the game to see where he's comfortable.
Get his feedback.
Get his feedback. Yeah.
Right. You want the kicker to have input into what he thinks his range is, for sure. And then Fairbairn knows, hey, I told him 60 yards. That's what we're going to go with.
Minimal wind, as Steve talked about. Just so you know, he's 15 for 15. Up to 47 yards this year. This is beyond 47, but they still have 11 seconds to play. Watson to the middle, and pass is caught by Hopkins. And another timeout called by the Texans with 3 seconds left. So they'll take a shot for a field goal to go in with a 6-point lead. Well, after they got the first down, the thought was we've got time to then settle for a field goal. Hopkins, by the way, 6 catches, 55 yards, 18th straight game with 50 yards or more. All right, so this will be a 46-yard field goal. Trevor Daniels, the holder. John Weeks, who plays every game. This is his 137th consecutive start as the long snapper. Kicking from left to right. And now a timeout called by the Broncos. So they'll ice Fairbairn.
He missed it, of course. Vance Joseph thinking, it's a 50-50 call.
Look at Bill O'Brien's face.
Yeah. You make that gamble. Do you take the timeout, or do you because you know in the kicker's mind they're thinking, are they going to ice me or not?
Right.
So that you can justify it either way. Sometimes I think it's better not to call the timeout now because the kicker is indecisive. Now he knows he doesn't have to worry about the timeout.
Now he's free and easy.
Right.
All right, so this will be a 46-yard attempt for a second time. Let's see what adjustments he makes. 17 of 20 on the year. Good snap, good hold. Kick is on its way for a second time, and it is good. So this time he's able to nail it. As time expires, the Texans will go in on top 16-10. That's the end of the first half. Bill O'Brien says, yes, sir. That's the end of the first half with the score. Houston 16, Denver 10. Halftime is next after these first half highlights from Verizon and a word from your local station. Texans on top 16-10 as we prepare for the third quarter. Kind of an interesting swing right at the end there, Steve, where the Broncos were going for the tie, missed the field goal. Then the Texans had 18 seconds. They get the field goal. Yeah, we were looking for a tie ball game potentially, but the long field goal being missed comes back to haunt the Denver Broncos and ends up the Texans get that 6-point lead now at the half instead of a potential tie ball game. Well, how about this? It's time for a Downey unstoppable moment, and we wondered if Demaryius Thomas would be involved early. He was involved early. Took this pass from Deshaun Watson. It was one of 3 passes on 3 targets for Thomas in the first half, and it helped set up the first score for the Texans. Now, after that, he wasn't targeted as much. It was Hopkins who was targeted, which you anticipate. But right. I think Thomas, he's the balance that they talked about having. Well, in talking to Bill O'Brien yesterday, he was not hiding the fact that he wanted to establish Thomas early. But we all know the number 1 guy here in Houston, or not here, the number 1 guy for the Houston Texans is number 10, DeAndre Hopkins. All right, so first half statistics, the Texans wanted balance. They got balance as far as the plays go, but only 57 rushing yards. They had 133 passing yards. The Broncos picked it up in the second half. And that's a big number, too, when you look at time of possession. Significant here, in Denver. Yeah, Bill O'Brien said we want to cycle guys in because we want our guys to be fresh in the fourth quarter. And in his 5th season, he's 26-1 when leading at halftime during the regular season. And you worry about the defense more so than the offense, and the fact that the offense really controlled the possession first half works in their favor very well. Janovich is in as the fullback for the Broncos. And a run play, and it's snuffed out. Angelo Blackson makes the tackle and stops Philip Lindsay. All right, so Case Keenum had a slow start, but 11 of 17 to finish the first half. And to his credit, he had 2. I thought there were big drops. One could have been a first down. The other one could have been a touchdown. You're right. The first down one is one you can kind of get over. It was Hireman missing that quick little screen pass to the outside. But Cortland Sutton, the big bomb down the right sideline, I think he should have finished that catch off. It was a nice play by Sharice Wright, but he should have made that catch. Second down at 10 for the 25. Off the play fake. Keenum trying to set up the screen. Does so to Hireman. Hireman's got a blocker, and Hireman is upended. After a gain of 7, Sharice Wright makes the tackle. All right, so let's look at Keenum in the first half. It was a quiet first half, as we talked about. Other than the dropped potential touchdown for Cortland Sutton, I think Case Keenum looked pretty good. He looked like he knew where he wanted to go with the football, pretty darn accurate, and put together that touchdown drive that they desperately needed to pull within 3 points. Facing a 3rd and 2 on the opening drive of the third quarter. If you're pointing out the Mike linebacker, he tried to thread a needle to Sutton, but it's broken up by Kareem Jackson. It'll be 4th down. Well, Case Keenum is asking for a pass interference. Feels like there was contact before the ball got there, and he's got an argument. He does have an argument. The question is, the Kareem Jackson is definitely playing the ball, and that's a key point. He's making a play. He's got every bit as much right to that football as the receiver does. Here's Wadman to punt. Irvin back deep to receive. Mike Tyson is back there as well. Ball bounces at the 31, and Urban will take it and take the hit too. So the first possession of the third quarter for the Houston Texans and Deshaun Watson when we return. Well, back here at Denver, where the Texans lead at 16-10. Watson 28 of 35, 387 yards in the last 2 games. 7 touchdowns, no interceptions.
Is that good?
I think that's pretty good.
It's pretty solid.
And a running play on first down stops by the Denver defense. Tonight on CBS, some friends come into your life the exact moment we need them most. Watch an all-new God Friended Me tonight after 60 minutes, only CBS. Mile High City. We've enjoyed our stay here the last several days. Got a chance to meet with Demaryius Thomas yesterday. Saw that beautiful banner they have out front thanking him. Watson lofts that one for his tight end. It's incomplete. He tried to sandwich it to Ryan Griffin, but Todd Davis was in on the coverage. It's third down.
That was very well defended underneath, forcing Deshaun Watson to make a perfect throw to get the completion. But those are the kind of plays where really, if you're really evaluating this Texans offense, losing Will Fuller is where it really makes a difference, because he takes the top off of a defense, and DeAndre Hopkins is more the guy coming underneath most of the time. Now he's the one trying to get the deep route. It's just a different dynamic for this offense.
Yeah, they hope Vincent Smith or Sammy Coates could eventually be that guy. Watson's under pressure, breaks away from Davis, and now runs and spins and gets up to the 30-yard line. He'll be shy of the first down. He is a heck of an athlete, though. I mean, Davis had him in the backfield.
And he ends up making about 12 yards on the play. Just incredible elusiveness for a quarterback. Tremendous athlete. But a great job by the Denver Broncos defense to force a 3 and out as well in response to the Texans doing it initially.
Adam Jones back deep to receive this punt from Trevor Daniel, the rookie out of Tennessee. That's a pretty good punt. Jones takes it at the 22 and is knocked back immediately. A.J. Moore with the special teams tackle. Second chance in the second half for Case Keenum when we get back.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Dell and the XPS 13 with Dell Cinema. USAA, official NFL salute to service partner. And by Land Rover, above and beyond.
I got to tell you, watching the dogs with the Frisbees, it's always great during basketball season. That's the first time I saw it here on the football field. And it was pretty sharp. Here's Keenum on first down. He's really using his tight ends. He got Hireman. Hireman with a short gain. Matthew was in on that tackle.
It was a nice job of Case Keenum getting the ball up and over and on Hireman. You know, shoot, a 4-yard gain on first down. It ends up being the same as a good run right there. You keep yourself in desirable down and distance, and you also keep the defense on edge by throwing another bootleg at him.
And Lindsey is stretched out to the far side of the field, out of the backfield. So 5 receivers. He's covered up by Kareem Jackson. Keenum looks right. He's got a man. He's got Sutton. And Sutton is up above the 40 to the 45-yard line.
Well, that was
Tyson made the tackle eventually.
Nice job by Case Keenum. They kind of busted the coverage. It wasn't designed to get the ball to Sutton, but you see the corner fell off. That was Sharice Wright, and left Cortland Sutton sitting on the sideline. Good job, take advantage by Case Keenum.
Keenum now 14 of 21, 167 yards. Lindsey out of the backfield, and he is nailed. Kareem Jackson knocks the football out. It's incomplete. Boy, he's having one heck of a day, isn't he?
He is absolutely a dynamic force out there today. And this hit, again, this could have been a defenseless receiver, but you can see clearly he was not going to the head or neck area. Just a good, solid play by Sharice Wright. And that's a throw that Case Keenum should take the blame for. He's got to be able to sense that hit coming. You don't want to put anybody in that kind of peril.
Oh, Kareem Jackson, 47 tackles coming in. Usually a safety playing a lot of corner today. Did the same last week. Janovich and Lindsey in the backfield. That's Janovich in motion. Here comes the blitz. And Keenum hit as he throws. Going long for Sanders. And he overthrows him.
And that's one Case Keenum would like to have back. You called it right, Tom. The blitz coming up the middle. They're moving to Davion Clowney. He was coming right up the middle, and Keenum had a chance. A little bit of pressure coming late from Merciless, but you're going to see Sanders had a step. If that ball's thrown over the top in the right inbounds, they got a chance to make that play.
Yeah, what did Sanders tell us this week? He said, I ran more this week than I have at practice in a long, long time.
He's expecting to be on the receiving end of several targets down the field.
They've only converted 2 third downs today. Booker's in the backfield, and Keenum has Sutton for a first down. So the third first down of the day gets them inside Texans territory. Whitney Merciless and Sharice Wright make the tackle.
Well, they came with Tyrann Mathieu off the edge, bringing the pressure. But Case Keenum sensed it, did a good job of getting rid of that ball on time before the pressure got there. Sutton with another big catch.
Sutton so far has 3 receptions for 57 yards. They'd like to get him 10 more catches or 10 more targets per game. Now that Thomas is no longer here.
55. Yeah, 55. Hey, 55 to Mike. Monday. Lady. What's that?
Handoff goes to Lindsey, and Lindsey is his best run of the day. Bounces off of Reed and gets down to the 30. It's a gain of 11 yards.
Well, super job. Again, we talk about the size of Lindsey. Number 1, look at the patience. Number 2, look at the acceleration through the hole. He is not what you would consider to be a typical scat back his size, looking to bounce the ball outside. He sticks it up in there, and he's got great balance to get the extra yards as well.
Longest run of the day for Lindsey. The wind is picked up just a little bit down on the field.
Offense, number 72, 5-yard penalty, first down.
Well, that's Garrett
a little
Bowles.
bit.
Yeah, listen to the wind from Clay Martin's microphone.
Yeah. The flags are blowing. They were near completely still the first half of this game.
Number 72 on the left side. The second-year pro out of Utah. 20th overall pick last year. River Craycraft is in as a receiver. Here's Lindsey off the little pass to the outside, and he's out of bounds inside the 25-yard line. Justin Reed made the tackle. How important is it to get Lindsey or a back into a rhythm?
I think very important, and right here is just another way to do it. Houston was coming with some pressure. Sometimes having the right play call gives you the best opportunity to get to the outside, and that was it right there. Case Keenum saw the pressure, knew he had the hot release by Lindsey, and put it on him. Nice game.
Gain of 12 yards, I formation. Now the handoff goes to Lindsey, and Lindsey down to the 20-yard line. It's a gain of 3. He's at the first down marker.
He's right on the marker. We'll see if they give it to him, if they're giving him the first down.
So they'll move the chains. We talked with him on Friday. In training camp, he wore number 2. And then when he made the team, he had to decide on a different number. He said, you know, there weren't many numbers available. He goes, I kind of wanted 28. He said, but Rice Freeman had 28. So he said 30 was available, and obviously grew up loving Terrell Davis.
He was a local kid.
Had his book, read his book all the time, had it on his nightstand in high school and college. And he called Terrell and asked him if it was okay if he could wear number 30. And TD said, it sure is. On first down, Keenum underhand flips, and Lindsey inside the 10, holding on to the football. Well, whatever gets it done, I guess, for quarterback.
That's right, and that gets the fans charged up here in Denver. Case Keenum just doing whatever he's got to do to make a play. J.J. Watt was breathing down his neck. Instead, J.J. Watt gets in the tackle of Lindsey 10 yards down the field. But a good job of ad-libbing by Case Keenum right there.
Well, it's a gain of 12 yards. Lindsey will get a breather. Booker is back in. He already has a touchdown run. Sutton's out to the left. Sanders off to the right. Keenum rolls the pocket. Here comes the pressure. Throws to the back of the end zone. Just throwing it away. Merciless was coming after him.
Merciless coming right in his face, and nobody open there. Very good decision by Case Keenum right there. You do not take the sack for a loss.
Hey,
so you see Merciless coming off the edge there. 59 doesn't bite on the boot action, and nothing good comes out of a quarterback trying to run away from a pass rusher like Merciless in that situation. You got to protect that field position.
Merciless, 39.5 sacks for his career. That's why he's a force. Lindsey's back into the backfield. He'll take the handoff. Going right, nothing there. And Whitney Merciless takes him down behind the line of scrimmage.
You know, Merciless is the kind of the forgotten man on this defense. Everybody talks about J.J. Watt and Jadeveon Clowney, but Merciless is a force off that edge. Has been a great football player for many, many years. 7th year in the league.
Came to life at Illinois. Was kind of under-recruited. There's Clowney. He and J.J. Watt do not have a sack today. They've gotten into the backfield, but they do not have a sack today. It's 3rd down from the 12. 3rd and goal. Keenum, middle of the field, and threaded the needle. Touchdown Broncos. Hireman somehow got the football between 2 defenders.
Oh, this is a beautiful throw by Case Keenum. You see that ball's in the air before Hireman even turns around. Sometimes a quarterback has to make the magnificent throw. Right there was exactly the time. In the red zone, things happen so much quicker, and you got to trust your receivers that they're going to do exactly what you're expecting them to do right there. That was the case. Brilliant throw by Case Keenum.
Topped off an excellent drive, 12-play drive. The point after by McManus off the high snap. And he pushes it through. 17-16. Case Keenum with his 11th touchdown pass of the year to Hireman. Number 2 for Hireman. Just let your receivers go to work. Well, we wondered how they would make up for the loss of Demaryius Thomas. They have by using their tight ends. That last scoring drive, 12 plays, 81 yards. The 12-yard touchdown reception by Hireman. Hireman today, 6 catches, 62 yards. He came in with only 15 catches. And that ball will go out of the back of the end zone and into the crowd. Denver on top, 17-16. Well, our Super Bowl memory today, John Elway scored a rushing touchdown and steered the Broncos as they defeated defending champion Green Bay in Super Bowl 32. Then he led the team back to Super Bowl 33 the next year in his final game, finding Rod Smith on an 80-yard touchdown and earning most valuable player honors. They got back-to-back Super Bowls. There's a hug for Pat Bowlen. Pat Bowlen nominated as a contributor finalist to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and rightfully so. On 1st down, it's a gain of nearly 5. Pat Bowlen, as the owner of the Denver Broncos, and the Bowlen family still owns the Broncos. 348 wins, 7 Super Bowl appearances, 21 winning seasons. 35th season as the Denver Broncos owner. Now, he's in that list as a finalist, as a contributor with Gil Brandt, the great Gil Brandt, who helped build the Cowboys, and Johnny Robinson from the Kansas City Chiefs. Watson on 2nd down. He's got Hopkins, and Hopkins, with his man falling down, goes out of bounds at the 44-yard line. Tremaine Brock makes the tackle. 15-yard gain.
Good patience by Deshaun Watson right there. There was confusion. I don't know how you leave the biggest threat on the field that the Houston Texans have in DeAndre Hopkins that wide open, but it worked out well, and Deshaun Watson more than willing to take that easy throw.
7 catches, 71 yards for Hopkins. Watson lofts it again toward Hopkins, who again has it, and then Chris Harris wrestles him out of bounds. I don't know what makes him so good, if it's his catch radius or just his pure hands.
It's a total package when you look at what this guy does week in and week out. When defenses are designing different kind of concepts to take him away, he still finds ways to make plays, and you got to credit Bill O'Brien and his staff too for creating different kinds of opportunities for number 10 to get the football.
He's on his way to his 21st 100-yard game of his career. 8 catches, 80 yards. Out for Blue with a handoff. And gets down close to the 41-yard line. So a first down. And now we've got an injured player on the field, and they're waving to the Texans side of the field to come on out. It looks like it's Kendall Lamb, the right tackle. So a timeout on the field for the injured player. We'll be back to Denver right after this.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by AARP. Take on today with AARP. Real possibilities. And by Verizon. The best unlimited is on Verizon, America's most awarded network.
Well, no doubt it's ski season in Colorado, located 75 miles west of Denver. Copper Mountain Resort opened a week ago for private on-snow training for the national teams around the world, including the U.S. ski team. By the way, Kendall Lamb walked off under his own power, but is in the blue tent right now being looked at a first down run play to Lamar Miller, and it's a gain of 2 yards. It's second down and 8. It's 17-16 Denver. Don't forget, Houston missed an extra point earlier in this ball game. That's why we're not tied. Three and a half to play in the third quarter. Miller only 8 carries for 12 yards for the Texans. Off the play fake, Watson's in trouble, and he goes down. Von Miller, his 9th sack of the year. It's a loss of 3. We told you the knee was fine. See, he was dancing.
That was that dance you showed him out there at practice on Friday, Tom. He put it to use. That's great. But Von Miller, though, yeah, bringing that pressure every single time. You had Jewell there as well to clean up at the end, but it was all Von Miller. Big play. Now 3rd and 12 for the Houston Texans.
All right, so here we go. Sacks per game.
Yeah.
Who got you? Who got
that
you?
That guy got me.
Yeah, he got a lot of people.
A few times, yeah.
Miller and Blue are both in the backfield on 3rd down. And now a timeout called by Watson. The play clock was down to 1. He was running out of time. Bill O'Brien said to his team that it's a very hard place to play. Altitude, but he said it gets so loud here at this stadium. CBS's Super Bowl season continues next Sunday with a doubleheader. First, Tom Brady leads New England into Tennessee, and then an NFC West showdown as the Seahawks try to gain some ground on the division-leading Rams. The day kicks off with the NFL Today at 12 Eastern on CBS. All right, so 3rd down and long, 3rd and 11. What's Watson thinking? Is he thinking Hopkins?
Well, you got to go out thinking Hopkins all the time, but I'm guaranteeing you that so is Denver. So you're going to have Demaryius Thomas on the bottom of your screen right here. This is Demaryius Thomas. Might be a good chance to go to him one-on-one. Oh, they rolled the coverage over the top.
Here's Watson under pressure, gets away. Flags are all over the place. Watson breaks free and dives forward close to the 36-yard line. Von Miller chased him down and tripped him up. Well, this penalty will tell a lot. And don't forget, Deshaun Watson had the collapsed lung, the partially collapsed lung, a couple weeks ago. He dove forward there. He looks like he's okay, but he's certainly catching his breath.
Holding. Defense, number 21. 5 yards added to the end of the run. First down.
Sua Craven's called for the penalty, and it's a first down for the Texans.
Now the question is, was the holding this is while Deshaun Watson is still in the pocket. He eventually breaks the pocket. Yeah, they're holding it. There's no doubt that Craven's had a piece of Griffin's shirt. Griffin's begging for the flag, and he got it, rightfully so. Automatic first down. That's a huge penalty against the Broncos defense.
Blue and the tight end Thomas in the backfield, and now Thomas will go to the right side. 3 tight ends in the game. And the handoff goes to Blue, and he is taken down behind the line of scrimmage. That's Todd Davis again. Loss of 2 on the play. Actually, officially 1-yard loss. Under 2 minutes to play in the third quarter.
Well, you got to tip your hat to this Denver defense. Coming into this game, They were the only team in the NFL giving up over 130 yards rushing the ball, as well as rushing for over 130 yards. Their rush defense was 27th in the NFL. They've done a good job against the Texans today.
Yeah, don't forget last 2 weeks, 69 yards allowed, 49 yards allowed. Here's Hopkins, and he's got a first down inside the 20-yard line. He's got such a burst of speed, and it's a quick burst.
And he's very elusive for a big receiver. Remember now, he's not a little guy. You see number 10 right there. He's 6'1" at least. I think he's a little bit taller than that up close.
It's the hair.
The hair, maybe it is. But he is very elusive. Look at that, right? Just the little subtle moves that buy him that extra 4 or 5 yards. You never see him really take that big shot either.
Shane Ray made the tackle, but he limped off. First down from the 17. Miller, the deep man. And he'll take the handoff. And gets down close to the 15. Adam Gotsis made the tackle for the Broncos. So under 30 to play, and that should be the final play of the third quarter. Asked Bill O'Brien yesterday about Deshaun Watson. What sets him aside beyond his athleticism? And he said, quite frankly, it's poise. He said all the good quarterbacks have it. All the great quarterbacks have it. He goes, and he has it. Well, down one, showing poise on this drive. And that'll be the final play of the third quarter. Denver on top 17-16. We'll return to Denver after this message and a word from your local station. You're watching the NFL on CBS, the home of Super Bowl 53. We are set to begin the fourth quarter here at Denver. They just had a stirring God Bless America with the trumpet. It's part of all the salute to service that the NFL is incorporating this month of November. And it was a great shot of Pecco.
Yeah.
Finishing the song with his helmet off.
You could see the passion.
It was really cool.
Domata Pecco, pretty inspiring to see these guys, caught up in the heat of battle here, but to be able to pause during the break and get caught up in being part of, feeling so fortunate to be a part of this country.
Yeah, they all have decals on for the different branches of the military. Emmanuel Sanders had the Air Force logo. I said, did you choose that? He said, yes, because I want to fly. All right, here we go. 2nd and 9 for the Texans. Down one from the 16-yard line. Watson out of the gun, middle of the field, broken up. Jordan Akins, the tight end, and Todd Davis broke it up.
Well, very well played. You can see no fooling going on right there. Davis, since that play coming, was in perfect position to make the break on Akins. Big third down play right here. Even though Houston's in field goal range, down by a point, they want to get 7 here.
And it's gotten really windy here in Denver too. On 3rd and 9, Watson has plenty of time, running out of time, and sacks. And Bradley Chubb finally got him.
Chubb finally got the sack. I was a little bit concerned about Nick Martin, the center for the Texans. You're going to see Deshaun Watson kind of gets rolled up behind his legs as well right there.
Yeah, we've had a lot of that today.
But Chubb finally broke through and made the sack on Deshaun Watson.
Said 2 games in college, nothing against Deshaun Watson. He said he was so fast and so athletic. So here's Fairbairn, 37-yard field goal attempt. He's missed an extra point today. Good snap. The kick is on its way, and it is good. And the Texans retake the lead, 19-17, with 14:06 to play here in the fourth quarter. We'll be back to Denver right after this. Coming up after the game, time permitting, the State Farm postgame show. Join JB, Phil, Nate, Boomer, and Coach Cower for all the latest NFL scores and highlights. That's coming up on the State Farm postgame show. By the way, we have not wished Phil Simms a happy birthday. He celebrated a birthday earlier this week. He had a nice cake today.
The last thing he needs is more attention. He does not need us to be making a big deal about him.
The kickoff bounces in the end zone. All right, so we said the wind has been picking up here. Look at this this field goal by Fairbairn. He's already missed an extra point. It's
so hard to tell which way it's blowing, but watch this ball. You tell me which way you think it's blowing.
It almost looked like it died in the air.
I mean, that thing hooked or sliced, I guess, off the right-footed kicker. But it's blowing. Look at the flags everywhere. And it's hard to gauge which way it's blowing. It's coming from a lot of different directions.
You've played here. I mean, this is a tough place to play, isn't it?
Yes.
First down for the Broncos. Here's Lindsey. Lindsey had a nice drive last time. He gets a couple yards. The last drive for the Broncos was 12 plays, 81 yards. They had 6 first downs. And it was really the one series, one drive that Keenum looked like he was in a really good rhythm for the Broncos.
Yeah, and you know, Bill Musgrave, offensive coordinator, told us, said that we just wanted him to play a clean game for him that, you know, take the things that are there. He's done a good job this year pushing the ball up the field in general, but really just making the right decisions and going to the right place with the football, especially at the critical moments in the ball game.
Yeah, we mentioned he has an interception in each game so far. Not this one, but each game so far this year. There's Lindsey again, and Lindsey is stopped by Justin Reed. Philip Lindsey has become a fan favorite. In fact, that little guy right there, you see him tucked in? He's got the same kind of hair. He's wearing number 30. And Philip Lindsey, you know, said that when he talked about Terrell Davis's book, how much it meant to him. And I thought about it. I wonder if he'll do the same down the road because he had such an impact. Now he's starting to get going a little bit, but look what the Texans have done today. They've held the Broncos to 2.9 yards per carry, well under their season average. 3rd down and 5. Keenum, and Clowney is there, and he smothers them. Jadeveon Clowney, 5.5 sacks, and Keenum is down inside the 20. That's a loss of 10 yards.
I'll tell you, this guy, to me, is one of the most incredible athletes on the planet. His size and his athletic ability when he's healthy, and J.J. Watt told us when we talked to him yesterday, man, when that guy's on the field, it's just we're a different defense. You talked about that rushing average. He's an every down defensive player too.
So he's just been huge because he's been on the field this year and healthy. The punt by Wadman goes out of bounds. That's a pretty sharp punt. 11:59 to play. Texans on top when we return.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Lowe's. The Smart Cash Card from Capital One. And by KFC's Crispy Kernel Sandwich. It's finger-licking good.
Beautiful gesture by the Broncos, thanking Demaryius Thomas for all of his time here in Denver. He had 3 catches early on in the first quarter, but nothing since. Shelby Harris just stopped Lamar Miller in the backfield. There's DT, and we mentioned they wanted to get him involved early. We asked him yesterday if he exchanged his tickets. He said, no, he goes, I still had my suite. I'm keeping the suite. My family's here. He goes, I bought 5 new Texans jerseys, so I distributed them.
Yeah, there's no orange in that suite.
Right. 2nd and 12. Miller out of the backfield as a receiver, close to the Texans sideline. And there is DeAndre Hopkins, who's now over 100 yards receiving. That is the 21st time in his career.
But we should mention that one of the issues that the Texans are facing right now is offensive line issues. Now at left guard is Greg Mance. He's in for Kelemete, who is undergoing concussion protocol at this point.
Third down, a gain of 8. Play clock is down to 8. There's Thomas in motion. I don't know if he knew he didn't know where he was supposed to go. That's the first time today that we could see that he didn't know where he was supposed to go. He had his hands out as he went past Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
Prior to the snap, timeout Houston. 30-second timeout.
All right, so they use a timeout with 10:34 to play here in the fourth quarter.
And that's the issue. You sit there, he's like, somebody tell me what I'm supposed to do here. That's it's not a good feeling.
He's calling the timeout too.
You got to understand, I mean, to do what he's done today, to be able to play after being in another team's uniform and on their property in their meetings for just 2 or 3 days, it's pretty darn impressive.
Yeah, Bill O'Brien said he's been involved in this before where a guy's been traded and has to play the next game. He said it's not often that the guy picks up everything this quickly.
But when things happen and you start making adjustments at halftime, and you see Deshaun Watson going over and talking to him right now, making sure he knows what he's supposed to do.
Play clock is down under 10, and he's telling him again the play clock's at 5. On 3rd down and 4. Flags are in. Watson is dancing and throws it away. Bradley Chubb was in his back pocket.
And that's the part of the game that I thought would be more of a factor, and I was surprised.
Holding. Offense, number 70. That penalty is declined. It's 4th down.
Holding on Davenport, the left tackle, and that's not unusual when the quarterback's running around like Deshaun Watson was right there. But I expected to see a little bit of confusion from Demaryius Thomas. That's the first time that we've seen it today. Right there you see Davenport guilty of the hold.
Yet again, it got loud here. And Demaryius Thomas, when he played here, it wasn't as loud when he was on offense. Daniels punt back to Jones, who doesn't go out of bounds. And then Jones is stopped at the 27-yard line. Well, Demaryius Thomas had a lot of emotion before the start of this ball game, and then 3 catches, but now just a little upset that he's just not in sync. Back here in the fourth quarter, 10:15 to play. The Broncos down by 2. Bill Musgrave, the offense coordinator for the Denver Broncos. Back in 1999, he was the quarterbacks coach for the Carolina Panthers. And there was a young man by the name of Steve Berline that was the quarterback. As Keenum looking to throw on 1st down. Not much is there. He's under pressure. He shovels it forward to Hiram in his 7th reception, and he might have gotten a couple of yards. Brendan Dunn makes the tackle. All right, so for Steve Berline back in '99, how about these numbers, Stinger? 4,436 passing yards. That led the league, but 36 passing touchdowns was second to Kurt Warner.
Kurt Warner, yep. And I was not a young man, but I was an old quarterback at that time. But Billy Musgrave and I had some good times together that year and a few other years as well.
Bill Musgrave, who lost his dad Terry on October 3rd, he said, he still feels that he still wants to call him after games and is unable to do so. On 2nd down, Keenum, quick pass to the outside. It's complete to Sanders, and Sanders has the 1st down. And he's up close to the 39-yard line. All right, so J.J. Watt has been in the backfield today, but the Broncos have done a nice job against him, keeping him from getting a sack.
We haven't called his name much, but he has always been a force. That when he's on the football field, he's healthy. He is a force, and the reason we're not calling his name is because the opposing team is accounting for him with more than one person. Trust me. He is making his impact felt, and he's still drawing a lot of attention out there.
On 1st down for the 38. Merciless showing blitz from the near side. The pitch goes to Lindsey. Lindsey has some daylight. He's inside Texans territory and shouldered out of bounds at the 41-yard line. Justin Reed made the tackle. Let's go to New York for an update in that Charger game against the Seahawks.
Little defensive help.
Hey, JB, I don't know what Russell Wilson was looking at, but he found Desmond King. He's going to go back 42 yards, interception return. Caleb Sturgis misses his 2nd extra point try today. Chargers now lead 25-10 over the Seahawks.
I'm just kind of guessing that Steve Berline might be saying to Tom McCarthy, it does happen.
Yeah, it does happen.
Unfortunately, I can relate, yes.
On 1st down for the 40-yard line. Lindsey remains in the game off the play fake. Keenum looking to throw. Steps up in the pocket. He's hit as he throws. And there's nobody there as he throws it out of bounds. It was Brennan Scarlett who was in on the pressure.
Well, the Texans are asking for a Intentional grounding call. The question is whether Keenum was out of the pocket.
There's no foul for intentional grounding, as the quarterback was outside the pocket and got the ball beyond the line of scrimmage.
He was close.
It was very close. You can watch the replay. The ball snapped on the hash, the left hash. Generally speaking, if he's inside the right hash, you're talking about the tackle box. So the extended area where the tackle takes his stance is the end of the tackle box. And so that was right on it. If it was outside, it was by an inch or two. That was it.
High formation. Keenum looking, hit. J.J. Watt wraps him up as he throws it forward, but it will be a sack. Well, there you go.
You talk about him and it happens, yeah.
9 sacks for J.J. Watt.
And just the thing about him that's so impressive is his motor. He just does not stop when he's on the football field. And we've seen a lot of shots of him earlier today throughout the course of this game where he's been splitting double teams, and he does not he gets frustrated. He told us yesterday it's extremely frustrating with all the attention he draws, but he also understands it allows his teammates opportunities to be singled up and make plays as well.
2 tackles, 3 quarterback hits, 1 sack. He has 9 sacks now in his last 7 games. Empty backfield on 3rd down and long, 3rd and 16. Keenum going long to the far sideline, and it's incomplete. It was intended for Tim Patrick, and it was broken up hard. And Mike Tyson
coming over the top. Sharice Wright, the corner who was defending on the play, might have been shaken up a little bit too. This was a collision between the two of them, as well as Patrick. But well defended right there by the Texans.
Now, Steve, they need Wadman to get a good punt here. He had a bad punt last week. He's been good today. He kicks it away from Irvin and out of bounds. That was a good punt.
We're going to see where they spot it. Probably right around the 10-yard line, I think. Yeah.
Yep, just inside the 10-yard line. So the rookie from UC Davis, 37-yard punt, but he was able to get it inside the 10-yard line. All right, so now Bill O'Brien will give Deshaun Watson 7 minutes and 10 seconds to work with. I'm sure he'd love him to chew up as much of this clock as possible to get another score.
Yeah, they want to try and grind it out and burn some clock time for sure. But you are not at all comfortable with a 2-point lead. You got to at least come away from this drive with a field goal or a dramatic shift in field position.
They're going to try to run the football, but it is Miller as a flag comes in on the backside.
Holding, offense number 70, half the distance to the goal, 1st down.
That's the rookie Davenport out of Bucknell, or 2nd-year pro out of Bucknell.
Right in the middle of your screen, you could see that Gotsis has got the leverage, and
oh man,
that's a dangerous play right there. You got that arm pinned back and driving him into the ground there.
Play clock down to 5. Watson from his end zone. He's in trouble. He gets away and dumps it off. Lamar Miller will get a 1st down up to the 21-yard line.
And there you have the greatness of this young quarterback, Deshaun Watson. Everybody in the stadium thinks it's going to be a sack right here. But he gets out of it and finds a way to deliver the ball to Lamar Miller. And all of a sudden, you got a 1st down, and the crowd is silent. And the great thing about Deshaun Watson, Bill O'Brien says, is that he never loses his poise, like you said. Whether good things or bad things happen, he just stays the course and keeps on going.
Alfred Blue with the clock winding under 6 minutes to play. A 2-point lead for the Texans.
And just to finish off that thought process, I don't think people really understand how difficult it is to be backed up in the end zone in the loud part of the stadium as an away quarterback with all that noise around you everywhere, and you're in your end zone the pressure that's on the quarterback at that time, and to keep his cool like that and make that play, pretty impressive.
Miller in the backfield, Thomas in motion. Miller takes the handoff, and he moves the pile forward close to the 35. In fact, they'll give him the 35, so a first down. A gain of nearly 9. Todd Davis, who's in double figures in tackles, makes the tackle.
Well, they're doing it exactly the way that Bill O'Brien would like to draw it up. You know, there was a short little shovel pass from Deshaun Watson, but then 2 nice runs right there. That's burning clock time.
But again, the Texans began the year 0-3. They've won 5 straight. They're sitting atop the division. A win today would be 6 straight. Lamar Miller in the backfield. Play clock. Had some time as Miller takes the handoff and moves forward a couple yards. It'll be 2nd down and 8. Will Parks makes the tackle. So if they win 6 straight, Steve, after starting 0-3, they'll match the 1970 Giants.
Yep.
Who started 0-3 and won 6 straight.
And as we pointed out earlier, since 2000, there's only been one team that's won 5 straight. That was the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2000. But since 1990, the teams that have started 0-3, and there's been 140 of them, 137 of them haven't made the playoffs. Only 3 of them since 1990 have made the playoffs.
Blue in the backfield, and he'll take the handoff from Watson and gets close to the 39, maybe the 40. And now a timeout is called by Denver. 3:45 to play. It's going to be 3rd down.
Denver, they're first.
Ryan Griffin is the injured Texan player that's down on the field.
And both of these teams, these offensive linemen are such studs. I mean, they deal with so much up there, and these injuries are always scary. And
yeah, let me correct that. It's a Kelemete who is down on the field.
Yes. But the Texans only have 2 backup offensive linemen suited up for the game.
Yeah, Mans and Rankin have both played.
And the Broncos is the same thing. They've had a few offensive linemen. They had Paratus out on the cart earlier. They only have 2 backup offensive linemen as well.
And by the way, the Broncos don't get charged with a timeout here because it's an injury timeout with 3:45 to play here in the 4th quarter. Vance Joseph's team is down by 2. Kelemete signed as a free agent after playing for the New Orleans Saints. 58 games, 22 starts during his career. The 6-year pro out of Washington. Top of the screen again, number 64. I don't know if it
not
was,
sure what happened.
I don't know if he got tangled up before he started to stumble backward.
It's hard to tell.
And he'll limp off, but he is off on his own power. All right, so give me the 3rd and 5 play here.
Well, you'd like to say you get a shot to go to your most reliable receiver, DeAndre Hopkins. I just can't imagine they'll let him single up against anybody, though.
Adam Jones has him on the outside. Thomas will be in the slot.
And I don't think you can put this on Demaryius Thomas at this point too, because this is such a key play in the ball game. And if they're throwing it to Thomas, as Denver calls a timeout now.
Yeah, so they did use the timeout. They wanted the extra time.
Actually, we're lined up, ready to play.
Yeah,
I just don't know if you can trust Demaryius Thomas, though. This is going to have to be a quick throw, and I just don't think that he and Deshaun Watson have had enough reps together.
Blue out of the backfield.
Man-to-man coverage. You got a linebacker out on blue.
And a flag comes in.
They call Thomas.
And the Broncos are jumping up and down.
False start. Offense, number 87. 5-yard penalty. third down.
All right, so we've seen the newness of this affect them in the second half.
This is when it gets loud and when you're having to make these adjustments. It's, yep, they got him. Now you got 3rd and 9. And they got to deal with Bradley Chubb and Von Miller coming off the edge.
They have not converted a 3rd down in the second half. Watson, slant to Hopkins. He can't hang on. It's broken up.
Adam Jones.
Yep, Adam Jones got his hand in there. So the Broncos will get a chance and get the football back with 3:41 to play in the 4th quarter.
Well, that's a big play by Adam Jones. I don't know if this ball was slightly behind Hopkins. It was. I think if he puts that ball on the front shoulder, I think Hopkins makes that catch 8 out of 10 times. The location accuracy is such a key part of completing those quick, tight passes.
Adam Jones is back deep to receive. This is a good punt. It's going to backpedal him down to the 5. He'll start inside the 5. Along the near sideline, and Reed, the rookie, takes him down inside the 14-yard line. All right, so 3:29 to play here in the 4th quarter. The Broncos do not need a touchdown. They need maybe McManus to pop one through the uprights. Keenum 6 game-winning drives in the 4th quarter or overtime in his last 22 games. And don't forget, one of the key plays is Fairbairn missed an extra point.
Yes, and that means a field goal will win the game for the Broncos as opposed to tying the ball game.
That was back in the first half.
But it's not uncommon to have an extra point missed now with it moved back as far as it is. It's not a gimme.
On 1st down, they'll give it to Lindsey. Lindsey's hitting the backfield, breaks away from Watt, gets up to the 20-yard line, a gain of 6. 2nd down and 4.
What a nice run by Lindsey right there. Stuffed at the line of scrimmage, but keeps those feet moving and has the ability and the power to rip through the arm tackle and get an extra 4 or 5 yards.
McManus getting his head straight, knowing that it could come down to him. They're trying to set up the screen to Watt. Well, Watt was all over him. And Watt thought he was being blocked in the back and held and all those things. I mean, he was moving.
He probably was. This was a little bit of a razzle-dazzle play by the Broncos. And I'm a little bit leery about running that kind of a play backed up at your own end of the field. Because if something goes bad, you're giving away points automatically.
Well, now it's a 3rd down and 4. They've got to get across the 24-yard line.
The biggest 3rd down of the Broncos season so far right here.
They've lost so many close games. Here comes Clowney. The pass is complete to Hireman, and he's got the 1st down. He made a man miss. He's up across the 30.
That was McKinney that missed the tackle. McKinney was in good position to make the tackle on Hireman. But, boy, this guy's showing some pretty neat athletic ability. Great feel for where that pressure was coming from and then picking up the 1st down.
8 catches, 75 yards, and a touchdown. And another 1st down for Keenum, and he throws underneath to Tim Patrick, and it's incomplete. Kareem Jackson again was there.
And Brennan Scarlett's the one that makes the finishing hit right here.
Yeah, he really never had possession and was establishing himself as a runner. Lacoste checks in. Craycraft, number 11, checks in. Low snap. Keenum looks to the near sideline for Booker. Booker's got it. Tries to get away from Jackson and does, and dives forward.
Touch him. Yeah, I don't know if they're going to. I don't know if he was actually touched down where he first went down short of the 1st down marker.
And maybe bounced forward a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, they're going to hurry up the offense. 2:01 to play. They got it off just before the 2-minute warning. And the pile moves forward to the 40. It'll be 4th and 1. I'm surprised that they went that fast and just didn't let it get to the 2-minute warning. So 1:55 to play, fourth quarter. Broncos down by 2.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald, in theaters November 16th. And by Pizza Hut, official pizza sponsor of the NFL.
Well, it's come down to this. It's 4th down and 1 for the Broncos. They hurried the 3rd down play to get it off before the 2-minute warning. They probably should have just let it go to the 2-minute warning because it's such an important play. But now 4th and 1.
Yeah, I would like a 3rd down of this magnitude. I would want to make sure you got the right play call. But nonetheless, here we are, big 4th down play.
Lindsey in the backfield. In motion is Patrick off the play fake. Keenum rolls, dumps it off to Hireman. He's got the first down. Up to the 43-yard line. Reed makes the tackle. For those of you expecting to see 60 minutes, you're watching the NFL on CBS in the game between the Houston Texans and the Denver Broncos. Tom McCarthy along with Steve Berline. 1917 Texans. 60 minutes will be seen in its entirety immediately following the game, except on the West Coast as a flag comes in. Another long discussion.
False start. Offense. Number 66.
A reminder, those of you expecting to see 60 minutes, you're watching the NFL on CBS in the game between the Texans and the Broncos. Along with Steve Berline, I'm Tom McCarthy. The Texans up by 2. 60 minutes will be seen in its entirety immediately following this game, except on the West Coast. McManus is hoping for a chance.
The key right now for Keenum, you've got plenty of time, 2 timeouts. Don't try to get it all back at once.
And Keenum's under pressure. He dumps it off. There's a flag, but Lacoste has it. And he gets up to the 43-yard line. It's in the area of holding. And that's not good because the Broncos just keep going the wrong way.
Holding. Offense, number 76. 10-yard penalty. Replay the down.
Max Garcia called for the penalty.
Yeah. Garcia right here in the middle holding. Oh, that's wrong. That's not Emmanuel Sanders, but that's Jadeveon Clowney. And, you know, I mean, that's a tough job. Those offensive linemen, man, you know, you get a big guy that moves that fast, he gets leverage on you. It's pretty hard to stop. The option is either let him drill your quarterback or take the holding call.
Well, now, Steve, they're facing a 1st and 25. And Keenum to the right side. He'll get some of it back here. Up to the 45-yard line. It's Tim Patrick.
That's the right way, the right mentality. You got 2nd down now, still plenty of time.
Gain of 17. 8 more to go for 1st down. Keenum near side, incomplete. He's trying to go to Sanders. 54 seconds to play. Let's check in with JB in New York.
Rams 21 unanswered.
That's right. It's been a wild game down in New Orleans. Here's Cooper Kupp, 42-yard shallow cross. Takes it all the way in for the touchdown. The Rams attempted a 2-point conversion. It was successful. They have come all the way back, JB, to tie the score at 35 with the New Orleans Saints.
9:07 in counting left in regulation. Back to Tom McCarthy.
All right, JB, 54 seconds left here. They need 16 yards to reach McManus's target line. It's 3rd down and 8. They've converted some big 3rd downs on this drive, and that ball is tipped off the fingertips of Sanders, incomplete. Kareem Jackson again was in the neighborhood. It'll be 4th down.
This was not a great throw by Case Keenum. You see, Sanders had leverage on Kareem Jackson. That ball's got to be put right on Sanders. That's a throw that's got to be made in that situation.
All right, so they've gone to the tight ends a lot. Here we got 4th down and 8. Would you go to the tight end here, or are you looking for Sanders, or we haven't heard Sutton's name that often?
We've not heard Sutton's name. I mean, you got a lot of options. The bottom line is that Case Keenum is going to make a read. Depending upon what the Texans do, he's got to deliver a strike.
Needs 8 yards for the 1st down. He's hit as he throws. It's complete to Sanders inside Texans territory. And now they'll hurry up to the line of scrimmage with 40 seconds to play. And now they call a timeout. That's probably the right move.
Yes, they're now in field goal range. That was, by the way, let's give credit. Case Keenum was under heavy pressure on that play. Took a shot right as he delivered the ball, but that ball was delivered on the money to Emmanuel Sanders. Great route by Sanders, too. That's a difficult timing throw, and Case Keenum put it right on the money. You got to tip your hat there. That's a big-time clutch play.
Yeah, it's a gain of 18 yards. You remember the Broncos, they have 3 losses this year by a combined 13 points to Kansas City and the Rams. Here, they're down by 2, but they're getting within McManus's field goal range to change all of that.
Yeah, right now it's a 55-yard kick, which sea level is about the equivalent probably of a 50-yard kick. So this is a little bit further than you want to be. You got 43 seconds, still 1 timeout left. So you want to get at least 7 to 10 more yards to where your kicker can feel comfortable hitting to put in a nice good stroke on the kick for the win.
On first down for the 37 from Houston. Texans showing blitz. That's Lindsey out of the backfield. And Hireman again with another reception to the 32. Matthew makes his 10th tackle. 10th reception for Hireman for 83 yards.
I like the poise and the patience here. Now you're comfortably in range. You're at a 50-yard field goal right now.
But they got to hurry up a little bit here. This time line it off.
They do, but they got the timeout after this play too. They'd like to pick up a few more yards.
15 seconds left. The handoff goes to Lindsey, who tries to slide through. That'll wind the clock down to 8, 7, 6, 5. They'll call timeout now. With 3 seconds left, McManus is on to try to win it for the Broncos.
Boy, that's going to be a 51-yard kick right now. Looks like the wind is pretty calm at this point. The streamers on the goalposts are not moving much at all.
Yeah, you look at some of the pants on the field. The referees, the officials' pants are not moving the way they were.
They may have caught it right from a timing standpoint with the wind.
McManus missed a 62-yarder before. He made a 44-yarder.
But I think to what I would have liked him to get the ball a few yards closer and have a little bit more urgency on that last play.
All right, a timeout called by Bill O'Brien. Here's the earlier miss where he rushed to get up to try a 62-yard field goal attempt. It's the same side of the field, but he just pushed it.
Yeah, and there's a difference too. 62-yard kick. He knows he's got to absolutely pound that one. This one here from 50.
51 officially,
Yep, 51 will be, I'm not to minimize the distance, but it's a comfortable kick with no wind in the face or anything like that to hurt you.
All right, well, here we go. It's going to come down to this. Case Keenum trying to quiet the crowd. Wadman is the holder.
I think that silence might distract McManus more than the noise.
Kreider is the long snapper to win the ball game. Brandon McManus, a high snap. Hold is good. Kick is on its way. It is no good, and the Texans will hang on and win it 19-17. It's their 6th consecutive victory after starting 0-3. It came down to the last play. It had plenty of distance, but just like earlier.
The same miss.
Yep, it was pushed off to the right. What a ball game.
Well, Case Keenum, you got to give him credit. He did a good job getting his team into position to have the winning kick.
The high snap have anything to do with it?
That probably did a little bit. You want it to be a smooth operation all the way around.
Because it's such a timing thing.
Yeah, but you can't make an excuse. You still got to make the big kick. The holder did a good job getting that ball down.
Yeah, Wadman did a really good job getting that ball down, and he knew it as soon as it left his foot. Yeah, look at the celebration by the Texans.
Oh, yeah.
Demaryius Thomas, he just jetted off the field.
The end of an emotional week for him.
Absolutely.
Probably just have a hard time. He feels bad about what he did those last couple of drives, the confusion.
Yep.
And probably how he hurt his new team, but to come out with the win is fantastic.
Well, the final score, it's Houston 19 And the Broncos 17 tonight on CBS. Don't forget, God Friended Me, NCIS Los Angeles, and Madam Secretary. That all follows 60 Minutes, which will be seen in its entirety. Well, what a game for Steve Berline. I'm Tom McCarthy saying so long from Denver. An emotional return and an emotional ending. You've been watching the NFL on CBS, the home of Super Bowl 53.